The Police Commissioner, our Acting Chief Health Officer, the Health Minister and other senior staff held a phone hookup a short time ago to review our current border controls with New South Wales. As everyone knows, this is a fast evolving situation and it's important we act swiftly based on the latest information. Delays and hesitation could result in serious consequences. Like I said yesterday, there is no doubt New South Wales is on the verge of a serious outbreak. Currently, New South Wales have 41 community cases in just the last 2 or 3 days. The number of contacts continues to rise, as do the number of venues affected across Sydney. It is clear New South Wales will record further cases in coming days. The situation is extremely concerning. The virus is circling throughout the Sydney community. Our thoughts are with our friends and family in New South Wales during this very difficult and sad period. This is not what anyone wanted just days before Christmas. As my parents and brother live in New South Wales, I have a personal connection with what is happening over there. Obviously, I want my family in New South Wales to stay safe. We're all hoping New South Wales can get this under control as quickly as possible. Restrictions in the community are necessary to stop the spread and limit the impact of the virus. I urge the New South Wales Government to do what is necessary to put a halt to community spread, not just for the sake of New South Wales, but for the whole country. We are all in this together. We've come so far in our battle with COVID-19. We cannot let all that work throughout 2020 go to waste. This morning, the Health Minister provided an update to the public and explained that the situation could change rapidly. This is the reality of living in a world with COVID. Since midnight on Thursday night, all arrivals from New South Wales have been required to self-quarantine for 14 days and receive a COVID-19 test. WA was fast to act, but we cannot get complacent and we need to constantly review our border controls in the wake of community spread. WA is fast to act, but we cannot get complacent and we need to constantly review our border controls in the wake of community spread in other parts of the country. Given the size of the Sydney outbreak and recent advice from this afternoon's AHPPC meeting, our Acting Chief Health Officer has recommended that New South Wales now move from being a low-risk state to a medium-risk state. This means, effective from midnight tonight, that is 12:01 a.m, Sunday, December 20, the hard border with New South Wales will be reinstated. This is the highest rating of any state or territory. Only Victoria, South Australia and New South Wales previously have been given this risk rating. As a result, travel from New South Wales will no longer be permitted unless you are an exempt traveller. This also applies to anyone who may have been in New South Wales since December 11 and hasn't completed 14 days in a lower risk state or territory. This means from midnight tonight, they will need to meet a strict exemption category to enter WA. This exemption system is the same arrangement as we have used before. The exemption list for New South Wales is limited to certain senior government officials, certain active military personnel, a member of the Commonwealth Parliament, a person carrying out functions under the law of the Commonwealth, a person responsible for freight, transport freight or logistics, and anyone given approval by the State Emergency Coordinator or an authorised officer. The final category includes compassionate reasons, including those West Australians that may have travelled to New South Wales recently and need to return to WA. These people will be assessed on a case-by-case basis and will be required to complete 14 days of self-quarantine. Interstate transport and freight workers entering WA are still required to show evidence of having received a negative COVID-19 test result in the past 5 days. I know these changes are going to be hard to take for many people. I know it will throw Christmas and reunion plans into disarray, if that hasn't happened already. This has been a difficult decision to make, especially given the time of the year. As the situation in New South Wales unfolded in the last few days, we have met regularly to receive the latest briefings and discuss options going forward. Our response all the way along has been based on the latest health advice, and our response has been reasonable given the circumstances. And these are now extraordinary circumstances. I wish I didn't have to be making this announcement, but as Premier I have a responsibility for every Western Australian, and I need to do what is right to keep our state safe and strong.